The UUFB adopted a new vision statement early in 2020, the vision statement that Neil just read. Today, Neil and I will talk about various aspects of that vision statement. Neil and I were 2 of the 4 members of the Vision Task Force, as it was called, that worked in 2019 and 2020 to develop that vision statement that Neil just read, with a lot of input from the fellowship that we'll talk about this morning. Andrew and Mariah, 2 members of the fellowship, were also very key members of the Vision Task Force. Mariah moved away, unfortunately. She was a great member of the fellowship. Reverend Duffy contributed very importantly to the Vision Task Force and to the vision statement. He was not an official member of the fellowship. He was, of the task force, but he was an ex officio member. And Tanya, who was president of the fellowship's board of directors at the time, also contributed importantly. So what is a vision statement? The working definition that we in the task force used in 2019 and 2020 to move us forward was as follows. A vision is a carefully defined picture of the congregation's future. It is not the current reality of the congregation. It's a dream of what the congregation aspires to become. Neil and I will cover several topics this morning. Neil will start off talking about what qualities the task force was looking for as we developed this vision statement. Neil will also talk about the importance and purpose and functions of the vision statement, both to you in our congregation and to congregations more generally that it applies. Then I will talk about the process that the task force used to develop this vision statement, and then I'll finish up with a few very brief concluding remarks. So Neil's going to take over now and talk about the qualities that the Vision Task Force sought for the vision statement, and then the importance, purpose, and functions of the vision statement.
I'm not really sure I'm going to take over, but sounds like a good idea. The Vision Task Force began meeting in June 2019, which seems like ages ago, particularly when you consider what we've been through since June 2019. We finished our work just before everything got closed down for COVID. Our first focus was on the previous vision statement. The only copy I have of it says 2015, and I'm not sure if that was the day it was written or if that was the end date of it, but that was the one we were working with. And it described, it covered 10 years and described specific goals. So basically it was a set of goals, such as a full-time minister, and interesting to me, it called for a large building, not just a building, a large building. And the interesting thing is we were looking at that, we were meeting in this building. So obviously that goal had been met at that point. And we planned our activities around updating that older statement. So we would have been setting out a list of goals. But in October, Reverend Duffy introduced Reverend Tandy Rogers to our task force and to the congregation. And Reverend Rogers was a member of the UUA Western Regional Staff Team. She met with us on a Saturday afternoon, October 12th, 2019, and we had a long conversation with her. And then she spoke at the service on Sunday, and her sermon title was, Into the Next 60 Years. Her concept of a vision statement changed our focus radically. On that Sunday, we had planned an exercise for the fellowship with sticky notes and the question, what does a UUFB need to focus on in the next 5 years to carry forth our mission? And interesting, some of you got the new message, and you crossed out the 5 and wrote in 60, and then gave us some information. So we developed a new focus at that time. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about that focus. So the first section was attributes that we sought for the vision statement. Number one was that it be future-oriented. Initially, we defined the future as the next 5 years, but later we expanded this to a longer, less rigidly defined time span. We wanted it to be aspirational, that it identify goals that we can serve toward, that it be inspirational, that it would motivate our members and our friends, as well as people in the Bozeman community who are searching for a spiritual home. We wanted it to align with, obviously, and express the core values of our fellowship, and that it provide a sense of direction as we move forward. The second thing that we dealt with was the purposes, the importance, purposes, functions of a vision statement, and it was to provide a unified sense of direction for the fellowship, that we were all on the same page. That it would be an important reference point for guidance and decision-making within our fellowship at several levels, such as the board for strategic planning and setting priorities. It would be helpful to committees, give them direction and priorities, and members and friends, so we would know where we were going. It would be helpful for religious education, some direction for that, and for decisions about allocation of resources, including money, and very importantly, people's time and energy, that we're not wasting people's time and we're not wasting our money. It's an important part of also our public face in Bozeman. To our community, other UU fellowships, I know you say other UU fellowships, one thing that we did, and Jack will probably mention it, is we gathered vision statements from other UU congregations to see where other people were going. And that could happen, people could use ours. And to people statewide and here beyond. And we felt that a vision statement would be important because it would project positively within the Bozeman community and beyond, that it could be a significant factor in attracting new members, that it contribute toward conveying the shared values that are a foundation of the fellowship. And I'm certain that our new minister to come has read our vision statement, and that may have made a difference in her decision to join us. And the last thing we realized was that a weak vision can be a liability that focuses poorly on our fellowship. So those are the things that we came up with, and Jack is now going to talk about what we did from June of 2019 until February of 2020.
Thanks, Neil. The process, so I'm going to talk about the process now that the Vision Task Force used to develop, with your help, this vision statement, and it was a pretty substantial, lengthy process. There are a couple of benefits for looking back at the process that we followed. It reveals insights into how we of the congregation felt about ourselves and thought about ourselves back in 2019 and 2020, and how we thought about our place in the community. And it gave insights into how the fellowship was seen by people outside of the fellowship, other folks in the community, including different people from different faiths. So a brief review of the processes that the Vision Task Force used is helpful for us to reflect on where we came from, and who we are, and where we're going to. As Neil mentioned, the task force started meeting in June of 2019 and finished in February and March of 2020. Our preliminary steps included looking at the UUFB's existing vision statement, as Neil alluded to. We did research into what are criteria of good vision statements. And we examined, as Neil mentioned, the vision statements of various U fellowships around the country. We looked back at responses that folks in the UUFB congregation had made, members and friends, in 2017 and 2018 in various contexts. We're looking for information that could be helpful for us for the vision statement. These included written responses, sticky notes from members and friends made during the first service that was held in this building in the fall of 2017. In 2017, at the fall retreat, folks wrote responses about the role of the UUFB in the Bozeman community, and we looked at that. In 2018, people met in mission/vision groups in February of 2018, and we looked at those responses. And then finally, in 2018 also, there were stewardship cottage meetings late in 2018, and we looked at the responses of those, from those. As Neil mentioned, we met in a visioning workshop with Reverend Tandy Rogers in October of 2019, and that was very helpful to us, as Neil mentioned. And during 2 of the Sunday services in October and November of 2019, we asked for written responses on sticky notes to the question, what does the UUFB need to focus attention on in the next 5 years to carry forth our mission? And as Neil said, Reverend Tandy advocated that we look farther down the road than that. In December of 2019, the task force created a survey, both online and printed, written, that people responded to, and we asked, what do you want the congregation to look like in the future as a result of its efforts in ministry, programming, and outreach? So we used those responses from you folks for that. We reached out to faith leaders of other faiths in the Gallatin Valley Interfaith Association. We told them we were working on a new vision statement, and did they have anything that they would like to impart to us that might be helpful to us as we put together our new vision statement. After we put together all this information and talked, we met on at a regular basis. The members of the Vision Task Force, each of us eventually wrote our own draft of the vision statement, and then we combined all of those separate drafts into a single vision statement. And we ran it past the board for comment by them, and then finally drafted the final version that was approved in March of 2020 by the congregation. I want to finish up by just briefly reading a few results from that information gathering that we did. So, for example, from these 2 Sunday services that we held, where we asked people for sticky notes responding to, where do you want the fellowship to go? And from that survey that we carried out and people responded to, here are some of the themes that came through. We want the fellowship to maintain a sense of intimacy and welcoming as our congregation grows. Find ways to include the greater Bozeman community into our UUFB community. Expand our outreach into the community. Take an active role in social justice issues in the Bozeman community. More young families, more children included in services. Expanded religious education for children and for adults. Be a strong community that supports spiritual development and thoughtful dialogue. Strengthen the place of music in the UUFB. Doing pretty good on that one. Increase our diversity, economic diversity, social, demographic, ethnic, sexual identity, and so forth. Protect and care for the environment. Care for ourselves, the congregation. Create a group to attend to the sick and isolated on a regular basis. So those are responses that came from you folks at our request. And finally, I'm going to finish up here with some excerpts from responses that were provided by various faith leaders from the Gallatin Valley Interfaith Association. Give a damn. That's what the UUs have always signified for me, and I am proud to be associated with you all in family promise and other social justice issues. I am impressed in observing that the UUFB's stated concern for social justice finds expression through engaging in sacrificial ways, advocating for and walking with. I have an appreciation for the UU's ability to frame an issue in fresh language that empowers seeing in new ways. The UUFB is valuable to our community because of its unity as a liberal congregation. UUFB is an essential part of the community's interfaith community. This is a natural outgrowth of the diverse faith perspectives which your members bring to the table. You provide bridges between faith groups. So that was how people in other faiths, leaders in other faiths, saw us. So, concluding now, here are two questions that perhaps you all might think about to yourselves and talk about with one another in the coming days and weeks and months. How has the UUFB done in the past 6 years in bringing to fruition the ambitions that are espoused in the vision statement that you have in your hands today? How is the fellowship's vision holding up? Should the UUFB consider developing a new vision? Fellowship has changed in the past 6 years. The world has changed. Isn't slowing down any on that front. And the fellowship will have a new minister in August. So it's worth considering. Is it time to think about the possibility of developing a new vision statement? Neil, got anything else to add?
Just a couple of things. You know how many sticky notes we read? And we wrote every one of them down. I have, pages like that in a folder just of sticky notes, all from you. And that was great. I mean, that was the thing that gave us something to work with. And as an English teacher, I was fascinated with the wordsmithing that went on. After we wrote our own versions of it and the discussions we had to get the exact word with the exact meaning, it was nuts. Let me tell you, some intense meetings, but I think it was well worth it, and I'm certainly, at the end of the whole process, was pleased how it all worked out, and it was a wonderful group to work with. We worked hard,
Yep.
and we pass it on to the next group.